Over the past 100 years since the Walt Disney Company was founded, a lot has changed not only within the company itself, but also in the world and our society. The company was founded in 1923 and created its very first movie, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, in 1937. They have since made countless of other films, and Snow White was the first animated feature film made in the United States, so it would make sense that the animation and filmmaking as a whole have come a long way since its release. While Snow White was created using cell animation and was completely drawn by hand by 700 different artists, one of the newest Walt Disney movies, Encanto, was made almost entirely using innovative technology and computer-generated images. The transformation in Disney's filmmaking and animation styles from older styles, like traditional cell animation, to more artificial computer-generated films is because of the amazing technological advances that have been made over the past 100 years, which have allocated for Disney to create more detailed, immersive, and visually appealing movies. Even though the new technology like CGI and AI have had a positive impact on filmmaking as a whole, it has also had its share of disadvantages. One of the main complaints that Disney fans as a whole have about this new way of making movies is that it lacks authenticity. It's very cookie cutter, and all the movies end up looking very similar. Before the emergence of new animation technology, Disney made movies using 2D animation. Well-known movies that made over $100 million or up to $200 million in box sales include Bambi, Tarzan, The Little Mermaid, and Snow White. Then you also have bigger hits like Beauty and the Beast, making just under $500 million, The Lion King also making just under $1 billion, and Aladdin making over $500 million in worldwide box office sales. As you can see from these earnings, Disney was making pretty good profits from their 2D animation. But why don't we see any more 2D animated films from Disney? The last one was in 2011. And here's what the owner himself said about 3D animation.
In this country, the derived idea was, well, nobody wants to see 2D anymore. The fact was they'd love to see a good 2D movie. That was never the question, but it was horrible, to come to this conclusion that only 3D was going to be our future.
Due to the emergence of new animative technology, Disney transferred over to 3D animation. This is also because of other companies like DreamWorks, as well as the high demand for new 3D films. How Disney got into 3D animation was through the company Pixar. Since 1991, Disney and Pixar would sign deals and collaborate, up until Disney fully bought them out in 2006. Disney is known for buying out companies, and Pixar was the most expensive, costing over $7.4 million. This explains how important 3D animation was to Disney to keep out the competition and to keep making more money. Before Disney bought Pixar, they were still in a contract, and Pixar and Disney pumped out its first 3D film, Toy Story, a very big hit making $365 million. Later releasing The Incredibles, which made $631 million, and Finding Nemo, which made $936 million. And later in 2013, making the 3D film Frozen, which made over $1 billion in worldwide box office sales. It is reasonable to say that 3D animation was here to stay. In the clip of the video of Roy E. Disney, the future is not 2D anymore. While 2D has made good sales in the past and has great story writing, it can't compete with the new technology and 3D animation. Disney's two-dimensional movies have been truly engraved on today's adults' minds because they were released as they grew up. This is because of the aura that Disney gives off in their movies, which in most of their productions is tailored towards children. The magical feel of Disney is what truly sets it apart from every other production company. Disney consumed Pixar, but not DreamWorks, both being known for their computer-animated films, which both stood no chance against the original Disney magic. But of course, Disney, being a corporate mastermind buying out Pixar, knows that they can't beat Kung Fu Panda and tried venturing into stop motion. Today, we're here to hate on Disney, but as of right now, I want to specifically touch on their lesser stop motion pictures first. James and the Giant Peach was a fever dream that I'm happy I do not remember. On the other hand, we have Frankenweenie, and Frankenweenie was great, it just didn't get much love because it was a lower movie. They did a great job of not making it creepy and keeping the sweetness of a kid and his dog. Another movie made by Disney was The Nightmare Before Christmas. I always get super tired and fall asleep right whenever this guy shows up, and the animation is just choppy and bad. The soundtrack had potential, and you may think that it was a good movie, but rewatch it and you'll realize why Disney didn't want their name attached to it for a while. Compared to a movie like The Fantastic Mr. Fox, and not to mention that it won Best Animated Picture at the Academy Awards, Disney should have just stayed to making their magic and left other ideas to other people before they got stomped out of their competition. There is no doubt that Disney is far less popular today than in its heyday from the 1930s to the 1980s and 90s. A lot of this comes from the transition from animated films to being much more focused on creating live-action films. When Disney was first created, it became very popular due to the style of animation used to create fairy tales. However, after 2010, the studio began to release live-action versions of these fairy tales, and the live-action versions were not as well received by the fans as the original animated cartoons. A lot of this is due to the fact that the animated films were very unique and creative and were a one-of-a-kind kind of deal, whereas the live-action films have been seen as a lazy way to continue to make profit off of their unique animated films from the 20th century. Disney made its name off of being one of, if not the most creative brands in the world for that time period. And when you look at today, they have stopped putting creative effort into their films and are choosing to tweak the creative animated films and adapt them to today instead of improving their animation and continuing to tell unique stories that will allow more people to become fans of the company. The original animated movie, The Lion King, is a fan favorite and was turned into a live-action film in 2019. A live-action movie with 0 actors or humans in general. So it is pretty much just a couple of hours of looking at an animated movie that was turned into a CGI film. This movie is probably the most blatantly ridiculous of the live-action adaptations because the only characters in the movie are animals, and the studio is just changing the film from old-style animative to computer-generated. As we wrap up our journey through history and impacts of Disney's animations, one thing remains clear. Disney has always been a pioneer in the world of filmmaking, with a rich legacy of groundbreaking works. Yet, as we've witnessed, the company faces challenges recently, sparking doubts about its creative direction. They were once a groundbreaking company that created films such as Snow White, which are staples of American cinema, but now new films like Elemental or Onward have been considered flops at the box office. However, as we eagerly anticipate what lies ahead, one thing is for sure. Disney has the potential to recapture its former glory by embracing innovation and returning to its roots of imaginative storytelling. Disney can once again enchant audiences worldwide. From timeless classics of the past to cutting-edge styles of CGI spectacles, the magic of Disney remains as potent as ever. It's a journey filled with twists and turns. Still, one thing is for sure. Disney will attempt to captivate audiences for generations to come, but only time will tell how successful they will be.